Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Ithaqua's Bane bringing you gaming goodness. Now, a while back I did feature in another video a tool from Shieldice Studios called the Scenario Builder. I'll put a link up here. But this is a very nice little tool, very cheap. If I remember correctly, it's like $4 I think on Drive-Thru RPG. But this is a very good little tool where you can very quick and easy, on the fly, create a adventure location with some sort of hooks and plots and sort of details to create adventures. And it gave a number of different sort of areas that you could potentially create scenarios. You've got the kingdom, desolate locations, coastal, jungle, frozen, gothic. And it had the ability to add sort of random loot, NPCs, events, timers and triggers. And this was a kind of generic focus in terms of where the scenarios were and what they were. You could have wilderness. There were some urban locations that you could roll up. Where is it? For example, like here, merchants, market, palace, gates, apothecary, casinos, barracks. So inside this more generic scenario builder, there was the possibility of creating city adventures and city scenarios. Well, thank you very much to Jay from Shieldice Studios. He actually sent me a more specific urban scenario builder called City Streets. And this one is much more focused on creating city locations or districts and then generating plots, hooks, events, and possible sort of twists for scenarios and adventures within a city. Now, this can also, let's move that one out of the way. This can also be used to actually create the foundations of a complete city, if that's what you also want to do. Now, to use the scenario builder, before we actually go through and create a sample, what are you going to need for this? Well, it's highly recommended that you have some kind of notebook to write down all the things that you roll up and that you create, maybe to make some notes in terms of where you see the scenario going from the prompts that you generate. So a notebook is always useful. You're also going to need dice. You're going to be needing a bunch of different dice. So a polyhedral set, a set of what they call D&D dice. I wish they wouldn't. D&D is not the only role-playing game, but you're going to need a set of role-playing dice. You're going to need, I know you're going to need D6s, D20s, D12s maybe, D8s, D10s. You're going to need basically a set of dice. See some of my other videos on the channel to see where you can find some good dice. As well as dice, you're also going to need a pack of playing cards. Now, again, for the playing cards, you can use whatever kind of playing cards you want. I think these are extra cards there. But I've got a rather nice set of Anne Stokes artwork cards here, so we'll be using those as well. What else? Pencil, eraser, and some creativity. Right, let me move these things out of the way and we will take a look at Scenario Builder City Streets of the Realm Fables series. Right, now, this sort of new scenario builder, part of the Realm Fables series from Shieldice Studios. It is not just a rethemed or slightly modified version of the original. It actually has some new features involved with creating encounters and events within sort of city districts. And it doesn't have all the features that we saw in the scenario builder. If I remember correctly, for example, I don't think City Streets has the trigger or the timer mechanism that we had in the original, which is fine. It's just gives you a different option. I'm pretty sure that you could actually bring that element within this if you really wanted it, because we are going to be generating random events and encounters within our scenario. And I'm pretty sure that you could use the timer or the trigger system from the other book if you really wanted to. I don't see any problems with that, to be honest. But yeah, it's a, like I say, it's not just a reskin, a retheme, sort of just making it more urban. There are actually some very different mechanisms within this. Now, again, many thanks to Jay for sending me this. On Drive-Thru RPG, at the time of recording, I think this is, again, I think it's like $4 on Drive-Thru. So it's the same price as the other one. And again, for $4, you've got an amazing little tool to really help you either as a games master or as a solo player, a very easy, quick method to generate a location, to generate events, encounters, and scenarios for your party or for your character. Now, like the first book or the more generic book, it does actually start off with a sort of a sequential guide to what you're going to be doing. And then as you go through the little toolbook here, it'll take you through each of the steps one by one. But it does give you like a summary in terms of each of the steps you're going to be doing to give you some idea of what's coming. Right, Scenario Builder, City Streets can be used to quickly generate a location within a city, but it can also be used to create an entire city and generate events and things of interest within. Follow the steps below. So these are the steps that you're going to be doing. First of all, you're going to be rolling to decipher your district layout. Now, the game basically comes with three possible layouts for your district in terms of creation. And what it is basically going to represent is cards and card layout. You can choose if you want to in terms of which one, but you can also roll randomly. And again, you'll be using cards to represent the different areas within the district. You can then combine different districts to create a larger area of the city, or with enough districts, you can create a complete city. After that, you then draw out the cards, lay them in the shape, and then you reveal the cards to determine what lies within each area. And as you can see here, in this example here, they've got the 5 of clubs, 9 of hearts, Jack of diamonds, and 2 of spades. So these cards will represent those 4 areas of the district. And again, there are different layouts if you want something a little bit different. Once you've done that, you can then determine the district style. So is this a noble sector, a religious sector? Is it a slum district? And with that, you can then, I think, roll dice? No, use the cards to actually generate specifically what each area represents, because each of the styles will then have its own set of tables to determine what each of those 4 areas, or 3 areas in this case, what exactly they're going to contain. Roll a d20 for each street event. Okay, so with this kind of layout, I don't know whether you can see, maybe I put a bigger picture up here somewhere. But this 4-card layout doesn't give you a lot of detail. It doesn't give you every single road, every single alley, every single building. It's a little bit abstract in that way, in that it just gives you the foundation, the core information. So for example, here, this top left area of the district, the 4 cards represents the whole district, but top left, this would represent 5 of clubs. That will tell you what's there, but it's not going to tell you exactly how many houses, what kind of shops, no. But the sort of spaces between the cards, these sort of lines between the cards, these are going to represent the main roads or the main sort of pathways between those 4 areas within the district. And in the center at the crossroads is where you're going to sort of have the major event, the major sort of scenario for this area. For each of these 4 kind of main roads or pathways, you're also going to be rolling up some kind of event. So there's a bunch of information that you're going to be rolling and creating to give not just one single thing that happens within this district, but a whole bunch of things that can link together or be completely separate encounters. And yeah, then there's a bunch of other tables that you can roll on to give yourself more flavor, more details, maybe more possibilities, more hooks. What this book also provides is also a way for you to determine the surroundings. In other words, what is the surrounding area like in terms of where the city is? So if you don't want to place this in an existing environment or an existing land, you can actually come up and roll randomly to give yourself, again, some kind of prompts to generate the world around the city. That's included here on page 6. Right, let us continue. Now, once you've created the areas, what you then need to do is to generate the street events. And the way that this works is that you're going to be rolling a d4 for each of the sort of main roads or the main sort of pathways, basically the places between the cards here. For each of those 4, you're going to generate a street event, something that happens in that sort of area. Not specifically maybe on the street, but maybe in the surrounding buildings, but in that particular sort of area between the sort of connections. So you're going to roll a d4 first to determine the type of street event. It could be a street obstruction if you roll a 1, an NPC action if you roll a 2, a natural occurrence, a 3, or a strange happening for a 4. Again, you've got the table up here. And once you've rolled the d4 to determine which table you're rolling on or what type of street event you get, you then roll a d20 to determine specifically what happens. So, for example, spilled potion crates, a sickly aura. Well, that could require sort of saving throws in terms of trying to avoid the potential toxic gas. Maybe this could seep into the sewer system and transform some turtles. But there are also some that maybe don't generate anything really exciting. Collapsed column. I mean, you could have people hiding within. You could have creatures hiding within the column and the surrounding stones and dust. But it could just be a sort of aesthetic thing, a visual thing. You're going to be doing one of these for each of those areas, sort of the border areas between the cars to represent the sort of main roads. And then you're going to roll a Crossroad event. Now, this is the one that's going to be sort of the major scenario or the major encounter for this whole district, and that is referenced in the center here. So for that, you're going to be rolling, again, a d4 to determine the type of Crossroad event. I think this should be Crossroad, not street. So again, we've got the summary here. A 1 is a party or player combat. A 2, city or citizens in danger. A 3, roleplay event. Or 4, a villain or adversary. So again, you're going to be rolling to find out which of these tables is going to be the sort of major event or the major encounter for this district. And you're going to be rolling a d20 to find out specifically what it is. Villain, adversary actions. They taunt you from afar. They're doing business with somebody. They watch you from a distant window. What about a city or citizens in danger? The ground splits, a fissure appearing. Now, all of these things are prompts. They're not going to give you a detailed breakdown and a complete scenario that you can then just sort of read and play. It's still going to need fleshing out. It's still going to need some work to make it into something that can be interacted with and played. But it's really good at giving you those prompts. Once all that is done, we then come to a section of optional elements. You can include wanted posters. You can include guild banners, graffiti, stained glass. And again, you can also have a little bit more detail. So a wanted poster, okay, but wanted for what? Well, roll a d4. Murder, theft, treason, arson. And then you roll a d20. And again, these could then link up with some of the other prompts that you've already rolled. Maybe one of them was involved with the collapsed column. Maybe they're the one who's responsible and they're wanted by the city guard. Guild banners, again, you can generate some more information regarding the guilds within the city. And again, from that point, from that prompt, you can then develop more information about the guild if the party wants to interact. You can generate points of interest. Again, you could do this for each of those 4 or 3 areas. So maybe you could generate a point of interest in each of the areas of the district, in this case 3, in this case 4. Or maybe you can just roll a d4 to determine which of those specific areas it is. So maybe you want to put 2 areas of interest or 2 points of interest. You roll a d4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Which area is it in? And then you roll to find out what it is. What else is there? The city notice board. Okay, so this can be used at the entry to the district to give some kind of sort of background information or maybe some flavor to the district that you're creating. And it's done as a sort of a narrative form in terms of a notice board, a district notice board, giving some information as you enter the district. There's this thing telling you what to expect in this area. And at the back has an example, but we are going to do an example. We are going to do an example for you guys so you can see just how easy and quick it is. Now, I am only going to be making some sort of basic notes. I'm not going to be writing the whole story, the whole sort of flavor text, the narrative. It's just going to be done very, very simply to give me the prompts that can later be developed into what you want to use. Now, what I have also done is I have created, let me get this out of the way. I've just quickly created like a template board so I can put the cards and see what I'm going to be grabbing and rolling. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this to kind of just quickly jot down some basic notes. If I need to write anything more, I can actually write it inside the notebook. But doing something like this, keeps all the information together, can be used as a reference later. And it's a good way to keep things in track. Now, I will probably be doing something a little bit better than this for the video in terms of like doing something on the computer and then putting it on the screen rather than just my bad handwriting. Right, let us create a city district with all of the encounter and event prompts. Maybe I should have done this portrait instead of landscape. All right, so yeah, it's like a background of a city, but the city's going to be turned on its side. There you go. I think this is better. Be able to see more of what's going on. Right, now, what we're going to be doing first is to determine the layout. Well, I'm going to be choosing this 4 sort of square format. You could roll randomly to determine which one you're going to be using, but I think just for this sort of demonstration, I'm just going to be using a 4 like that. I'm going to be rotating it. Right, and what we do now is we actually draw random cards for each of these areas. Now, I'm using this pack of Anne Stokes cards. They have been shuffled, and we're going to determine what we get. So I don't think you need the jokers. I don't see anything within the book that uses a joker result. So I think you need to remove the jokers. So we're going to be using 4 cards to represent our district. And that's all you use the cards for. You can now put the cards away. As a solo player, what you could do is maybe reveal and generate the details as you come to them. That may maintain some of the sort of secrecy, some of the surprise, rather than revealing everything before you sort of play the game. But we're going to reveal everything and generate everything as if I'm a GM and I'm preparing this for a game with my players. So once you have put the cards out into the layout that's required, we are then going to determine what kind of district this is before I reveal them. Yeah, I mean, you can reveal them first, it's not a problem, but I want to determine what type of district I am going to be creating. Now, again, there's nothing stopping you from selecting or choosing a district type, but we are going to be rolling. So for this, we are going to be rolling a D6 Just going to check whether you can see it on the camera. Some of these dice are difficult to read on camera, but I think this one's okay. Right, so we are going to roll and see what district type it is. We get a 2. Okay, so merchant, noble. Okay, so we're going to be creating a noble district. Oh, hang on. Give me 1 second. I need to quickly print something out because the other day I actually downloaded. Did I purchase? I think it's a free document. I actually got something else from Shieldice that I downloaded. Hang on. Be right back. Yes, look. This is something that I actually got from drive-through very recently. I've just printed it out and sort of stapled it and used some of this insulation tape, this sort of cloth tape. But yes, Shieldice Studios also have a noble house creator. Now this is free, a freebie on drive-through RPG, and it's like a little sort of random roll, create noble houses. You can create the family crest, the family emblem, the grade. Yeah, sorry, I've just just printed it and sealed it. Nothing's been folded yet. The family trade, family members in terms of maybe who are their sort of famous members of the family. Family secrets, both good and bad. Deeds, who supports the family? What payment do they accept? The family militia and specialists, so maybe here you can roll a number of times depending on how big the noble house is. Family mottos, roll 3 times. Actually, this sounds like fun. Let's quickly do this. D20, right. Bump, 5. The dead, 13. Will always, 20. End. The dead will always end. You can also do like a family tree of the noble house in this, and it's presented kind of like a worksheet. So you can sort of circle and maybe draw on the emblems onto the crests. You can highlight and maybe circle all these things that you roll up. You can add the information here. So it's kind of like a workbook as well. Noble questions, yes or no. So a bunch of questions here. Do the lords of the family collect taxes? Are the lords of this family united? Does this family have a claim to the throne? Now, for these ones, you could possibly select based on your sort of campaign, or you could roll a D2. I've actually got some D2s now. You could roll a D, again, 1 to 3 yes, 4 to 6 no, like an oracle kind of thing. You can also generate in terms of their fiefdoms. What else? Their knights in terms of the equipment, adventure prompts. But yeah, we're not going to do this in this video, but since I rolled up a noble district, this could definitely be a very useful little extra to use in this area, maybe to identify, maybe, I don't know whether the entire district would be under one noble house, or maybe there are 4 noble houses. Maybe they are friends, maybe they are enemies, maybe they are in competition. Ooh, yes, that could actually work. And you could potentially use the cards to determine whether they're friends or enemies. So for example, if its neighboring card is a different color, maybe that counts as being like a negative relationship. Whereas maybe if the cards are the same color next to each other, maybe that represents kind of like a friendship or some kind of positive contract between the noble houses. Oh, yeah, that could work, couldn't it? So, I mean, if you could actually do 4 different noble houses in this one district. And you'd have all the politics, you'd have all the action. And again, as you're generating the scenario and the adventure, you can link it with those noble houses. But yeah, shout out for this. I'll also include a link for this as well as the scenario builder in the description below. But yeah, this one is free, the Noble House Creator. And it's a nice little tool. yet again. But yeah, I just remembered I downloaded that I think last week. Anyway, let's get back to what we were doing. Okay, so we have a noble district. That's going to be the area we are creating here. So within the noble district, we're going to have these 4 sort of individual areas, sub-districts, or maybe sort of maybe areas of interest. So what we can do now is we can actually reveal the cards, and that will then tell us what is within those areas. What is the sort of major element, the major buildings, the major areas within those sections. So we'll do that now. So our first area is the 9 of diamonds. So the 9 of diamonds, actually let's move this around so that we can see everything on camera. That's better, isn't it? Let me just check whether it is actually better on the camera. Yeah, that's good, right. So the first area, this top left area, is the 9 of diamonds, bump bump. Canals of silver water with oaken rafts. Okay, let me just quickly put that onto the sheet. All right, I've just put it here. 9 of diamonds, canals of silver water with oaken rafts. I did try it in pencil first, but it wasn't very clear, so I'm going to be doing it in pen. But that's going to be our first area. Now, again, remember there is going to be sort of, what are they called? Street events. Let me just double check in case I get it wrong. Yeah. So between each of the cards are these sort of junction areas which represent kind of like the main roads or the main paths. There's going to be street events at each sort of border. And then in the center, there's going to be that Crossroads event, which is like the major thing. Right, our second area, which is the top right, is... Oh, 8 of diamonds. Now, these were shuffled. I promise you these were shuffled. Let me just... See, they were shuffled. Lovely cards. I love the art of Anne Stokes. Okay, 8 of diamonds is hanging roof gardens and waterfalls. Okay, so this definitely... It reeks of being a noble district with that one, yeah? Hanging roof gardens and waterfalls. Again, I've just written it here. You don't want to see me writing. Now, I mean, once I've transferred the information actually onto the card here or into your notebook, you can actually write it down in a notebook as well. You can actually get rid of the cards. That's what I'm going to be doing once I've done all of them. Right, third area, bottom left, we have the 5 of hearts. Tiered gardens of floral arrangements. This is very much a sort of park area, sort of roof gardens, canals. And finally, let's see if we can get, okay, so we've got canals, roof gardens, a tiered garden. Is this still going to be like a green area, or is it going to be something a little bit more stone-like or sort of building-like? Right, the fourth and final area within this district, within this noble district, get rid of that, is the Queen of Clubs. Let's check. Okay, Queen of Clubs. Enclosed section, burned down. Ooh, so this could be an area where possibly a conflict between the noble families actually took place and the whole area was destroyed and burned down. Or maybe this was the location of a disgraced noble family. Maybe they were involved in dark dealings and the city guard and sort of the wizard's tower came down and destroyed it for being in league with evil parties. Oh, so again, the stories can be generated very easily using all these prompts. Okay, now you'll notice that in terms of the cards, we've got these 3 which are red and this is black. So like I mentioned earlier, if we want to create sort of a noble house or a noble family in each of these areas, maybe these 3 are sort of pro-city council or pro-city government, and this one was sort of anti-government and was sort of more dark and evil in nature. That's why it has that dark number or the dark suit kind of thing. That could possibly work. Maybe also because these 2 are the same suit, yeah, diamonds, hearts. Maybe these 2 have maybe family connections. They've got like a sort of inter-house marriages, or maybe they have very strong contracts in terms of trade and business. Maybe this one is on a friendly nature, but maybe they don't actually have such a close relationship. All of this can be generated just by looking at the information that we have so far. And of course, you can further develop it into a lot more detail. Right, so that's the areas identified, and we can actually use the cards now. We don't actually need the cards anymore once we've used them to identify. But again, if you're playing this solo, you may want to identify each area as you move into it. And again, the borders between the cards are representing the main roads or the main paths. There are going to be other roads and paths and alleyways within each of these areas, so you don't have to go to the center here to go into this area, for example. Right, so we've done that. The next thing that we need to do is actually move it over because now we want to start looking at the street events. Now, the street events are going to be at these, like I say, these border roads or paths or areas, and it's going to designate, for example, something that happens or something that exists as you move from one area to another. So we're going to have one here, one here, one here, and one there. I'm going to label these as 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm actually going to be writing the information close to them so we know what's what. And the one in the center here is going to be the sort of crossroad area. So this I'll put as number 5. That's going to be the crossroad event, the sort of main sort of event that affects the whole district. But these are sort of more specific to the sort of area that borders the two areas. Right. Street events. Roll a d4 to determine the type, then roll a d20 to determine the event type. Okay. Make notes of these events and perhaps place a token on a relevant street. Well, I'm just numbering them. So let's roll for number 1. We're going to be rolling a d4 and a d20. Okay. So for number 1, what do we get? We get a 2. You can't see that, can you? It's a 2 and a 6. So a 2 is an NPC action, and a 6, an artist paints the city street. Again, I think that's something that could be worked into some kind of an encounter, and maybe you're looking for information, or maybe you're looking for maybe you're trying to get a contact in the local thieves guild, and maybe this artist that you happen to see, maybe you reckon that they could potentially give you some information. On the other hand, if you want to look at it in a darker sense, maybe this is somebody whose paint is not exactly pure. And maybe something else that happens leads you to find out that this artist is actually using some foul materials within his paint to capture those sort of perfect, disturbing tones of color. I think that was in a movie, or was it in a book that I read some time ago? Right, I wrote that down. You don't want to see me writing, so I'm editing out all the little writing parts. Right, so that's the first area. So as we move from this area to this area, or vice versa, or maybe as we move through here or here, it's not specifically at that point. It can be anywhere on that sort of border, but we notice an artist who's painting the city street. And again, that can be used as a interactive NPC, or maybe just a little bit of color to the scene. Right, now we've got here street event number 2. So we're looking at the border between these two areas. Now, again, this is very abstract. These areas are not necessarily these rectangle sizes or shapes. They can be, very fluid in terms of what they are. So event number 2 is, we have a 1 and an 11. All the 1s. A 1, 11. So 1 is a street obstruction, and 11 is a vaporous cloud of hot steam. Okay, so that could possibly block our movement and prohibit us from maybe chasing somebody if we're chasing somebody from this area into this area, or again, vice versa. Maybe this sudden vaporous cloud of hot steam, maybe from a bakery or something, or maybe from a blacksmith's. Maybe it sort of hinders our ability to sort of chase somebody. Possibly. Next up, street event number 3, which is on the border between the hanging roof gardens and waterfalls and this enclosed section which is burned down. And that is going to be, okay, we've got a 4. This 4's not very centered properly on this dice, is it? It's a little bit low. Never mind. We've got a 4 and a 10. So a 4 and a 10 means we're going to have to actually move along, because it's over here, right? So a 4 and a 10. A 4 is strange happenings. That actually could work, because like I say, that's bordering this enclosed burned down section. Ghoulies and ghosties possibly. So what is it? A 4-10. So strange happenings, masked corpses litter the street. They could be the people who used to live here. They could be Thieves Guild, or thieves who are going into this area hoping to find treasures. And then they were caught by the city guard and kind of cut down. That's possible. But it represents, like I say, the area around the border, not necessarily the area inside. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from sort of moving it more into this area, I suppose, if it makes sense. There's a whole bunch of ways in which this could link in this area, or even, like I say, even possibly, as I say, on that main sort of road, there could have been some kind of sort of inter-house action there, possibly. All right, the last one, the last street event is number 4. What are we going to get? We get, bonk, bonk, we get a 2 and a 20, a Kraken. Yeah, these are some of my Kraken dice. So we get a 2 and a 20. Again, we're going to have to move it over. 2 and 20, that's a Kraken. All right, 2 and a 20, right. 2 is NPC again, and the 20. Okay, a child cries for help from a window. Okay, that definitely could be an encounter or an event, a way for the party to sort of help the city guard or help a child or something else. That's definitely a noteworthy encounter. Good. Right, now we have to do the Crossroad event, which is a sort of main event or a main encounter or a main happening for the sort of district as a whole. So roll a d4 to determine the type, and then roll a d20 to determine the event type. All right, so again, we're rolling a d4. It could be party, player, combat, city or citizens in danger, a roleplay event, or villain or adversary. Okay. So we roll a d4 and a d20 again. We get, for our Crossroads event, we get a 3, 7. And again, we're going to have to switch because it's a 3. Over we go. Very handy. 3. So a 3 is a roleplay event, and a 7. Occult murders have occurred. Could that be linked with that street event, the masked corpses? Could it be linked with this section? Is that possibly one of the reasons why the section is burned down? Or is this something is it something that happened before and was the reason for this and is continuing? Or is it something that's happened after this area was burned down and destroyed? Or is it something completely not related to this area whatsoever? Is one of the other noble houses involved in dirty dealings? Done dirt cheap. Either way, it's really interesting, and it gives me a lot of options and possibilities for a scenario for either my solo character or the party that I'm GMing. Let me just quickly write that down. So, as you can see from sort of drawing 4 cards, rolling a few times on some tables, we've really sort of fleshed out this area in terms of generating a whole bunch of prompts and potential for scenarios, adventures, encounters, events. And it seems to be that when I do these kind of random rollings for scenarios and locations. It just seems that they work together very well without a lot of sort of pushing or manipulation. It just seems to work. Now, you could stop there. You've got all the areas with their basic descriptions. You can, of course, you can go into more detail as the party explores each of these areas. You can go into more detail in terms of specific locations. In fact, you could roll up that point. Actually, why don't we do that? Now, before we do that, there are things like here, like wanted posters, guild banners, graffiti, stained glass. These can also give you a little bit of flavor, a little bit of narrative resources if you want to sort of give your city, give your district a bit more interest. Again, generating some wanted posters, randomly generated in there. Who's wanted? Guild banners. Again, if you want a little bit of help to start generating sort of guild information for this city, for this district, again, you can roll up on here. I don't think we will for this, but I think we're going to roll up some additional points of interest for each of those areas, I think. So again, it's the same format as we've had before. You roll a d4 to determine which type of interest, and then you roll a d20 to determine, which one it is. Now, I'm thinking that maybe for this area, the enclosed section, the burned down area where maybe people aren't supposed to go, I may choose the table to roll on, because we've got here a 1 is a store or shop front. I don't think that's going to be applicable here because I think, like I say, they've all probably been destroyed. City dressing, again, probably not applicable. Bystander, dropped, or okay. So I'm thinking that for this area here where we have that enclosed burned down section, I think if I'm going to be generating an additional point of interest, I think it will be on the dropped or lost item as something that the party or the players could potentially find, something of interest, or maybe some clue to something that they're investigating. But I think for the other 3 areas, I think it would probably be random, completely random. You know what? Let's do that. So I'm going to do an additional point of interest for each of these. Let's just put it here, POI, point of interest. We'll do 1 for each, point of interest, even for this area here. The burned down sort of guarded area where you're not supposed to go inside. So I'm going to do a point of interest for each one, just as a little bit more flavor, a little bit more information. So again, it's a D4 and a D20. So for our first area, we get a 4, and a 16. Okay, so the first area here, we get a 4 and a 16, so it is a dropped or lost item. A 16 is a children's kite tangled in a treetop. It's something minor, but it could lead to friendship or contact with a certain noble house or a certain family. If somebody within this area, the child has got their kite tangled in a treetop and we help them. It's kind of a way to initiate first contact. For the second area, we get a 1 and 17, so we have to move again. Hang on one sec. We have to move again. There we go. What was it? 1, 17. Store or shop front, 17. Potter or artisan. So maybe this area has a very famous potter or artisan who maybe their products are worth a sort of extraordinarily high amount of money kind of thing. Maybe they do custom work, or maybe they can help in terms of making a present or a gift for one of the noble houses maybe. Third area, 1, 12, another shop or storefront. 12, a jeweler or goldsmith. Again, maybe this is a very famous, a very highly skilled jeweler or goldsmith. Maybe they can purchase any sort of jewelry that we found as the party has been doing their adventures. Maybe they have this jewelry and they can get it appraised maybe here. Maybe they can improve the quality, and maybe for the right price, I don't know. Maybe somebody like that wouldn't do fake items or copies. I don't know, it depends if the price is right, I suppose. And for the last area, like I say, I don't think 3 of these are going to be of interest, because I'm thinking of this as like a gated off area where nobody's supposed to go inside. It's guarded by their city guard kind of thing. But I'm thinking that there could be this dropped or lost item that could potentially, you know, be of interest. So I'm not going to roll the D4. I'm just going to roll the D20. We get a 11 smashed and bubbling potion bottles. Okay, I mean, that could be of interest in terms of safety. Maybe the city guard is worried about this. Maybe there's been concerns regarding some kind of leakage into the canals, and it seems to be coming from here. And maybe there are some, maybe it's a lot. Maybe it's not just like a potion bottle. Maybe it's actually like a larger scale sort of container that's leaking into the canal, potentially poisoning the water for everybody, possibly. And maybe they need us to go in and sort of find out where it is, what it is, and fix it. Possibly, maybe. And again, it's just more information. It's more potential prompts and information that could actually generate more adventures for us. Now, what else do we have? We've also got that city notice board. Again, I don't think I'm going to bother doing that. And yeah, but I mean, I say very quick and very simple. I mean, this video is going to be fairly long, but in terms of actually generating adventures and scenarios, in terms of actually creating cities and city districts, this is actually a pretty quick way of doing it, even though maybe this video is fairly long before editing. But yeah, I think this is another great little purchase. Very, very useful for both solo players and for sort of your standard games masters. And it can really sort of give you, again, that little creative push to provide your, like I say, you as a solo player or for your party of friends and players with really something that's very different to what maybe they're used to. So, scenario builder, city streets, an ideal purchase to go alongside the sort of more generic scenario builder. I think at the time of recording, both of these are about $4, I think. So they're not expensive, they're very cheap, and they're really, really useful. Also, if you happen to roll up a noble sector, like I did, the noble house creator is also a really useful little tool, and this one is free. Now, all of these can be found on DriveThruRPG. I will put links in the description below. Once again, many thanks to Jay at Shieldice Studios for sending me this. It's very pink, but yes, highly recommended. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, add some comments, ring the bell, all that. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care, stay safe, cheers.